So here's the story with Gus Malzahn. When he was first getting into coaching, he flipped through old Tubby Raymond's manual on the wing T offense, took it, and adapted it to the modern game, kicking off a long career producing nothing but productive offenses. It's a good story, and when it was first being told, starting with his time as an offensive coordinator at Arkansas and extending through his time at Auburn, you can see why it was such an apt comparison. The gun T or spread wing T was taking over football. But that story doesn't feel as true when you watch his last seasons at UCF. But before we get there, let's discuss what the wing T is and what Malzahn originally took from it. Now, defining a whole offense in a short video is impossible to do. So wing T nuts like Coach AB give me a break if I miss a thing or two. The wing T goes back a long way. It's so old that it's the offense that Coach AB ran in the olden days when he was coaching high school ball. No, really, the first reported use of something resembling the wing T was in 1938 as an attempt to combine the strengths of the single wing offense and the T formation. I won't get into either of those too much, but it's a fun rabbit hole for an afternoon if you've got nothing better to do. From a zoomed out perspective, the wing T uses condensed formations, like this one that has half of a T backfield and a wing to the other side that the offense is named after, to introduce misdirection and attack all parts of the field using the run game. Later iterations of this offense introduced motion, predominantly jet motion, where the receiver runs along the line of scrimmage to increase its ability to stretch the field horizontally. Up front, and this is important, the wing T, as Tubby Raymond described it, was exclusively a gap scheme. This meant that the offensive linemen were designated a gap to block, and backs were given a specific gap to run through. For instance, let's say we want to run to this C gap. We need to clear the defense of that gap. So we'll have all of these linemen block down to the left of the gap, and this tight end block the other direction. Well, that works great until the defense puts someone in that C gap. So they found a better way to do this. Let's instead have this tight end also jump in on the action and pull someone around to help clear this gap. This is the essence of a gap run, and you'll see it throughout all levels of football. While some zone runs feature pullers, it's way more common to see them in gap schemes. So we have a couple of points that are integral to the wing T: the formation itself, the use of motion and misdirection, and a gap scheme run-heavy offense. There's really one more place where the wing T has made arguably the biggest impact: play calling. The wing T is known for what's called a series-based offense. This implies that there's one play, let's call it a base play, that you want to run, and other plays that present very similarly that are designed specifically to take advantage of how defenses want to defend your base play. So let's look at one of the wing T series of plays, the Buck series. While the blocking changes from play to play slightly because they're hitting different gaps, the backfield action stays mostly the same. The base play is typically this fullback trap. The idea is you run it until you see how the defense adjusts to stop it. If they pull a linebacker over from this direction, then you can hit them with buck sweep. Similarly, if someone cheats from this direction, the quarterback can pull it for a rollout or even a pass. If you have another free afternoon, pick up Tubby Raymond's book on the wing T. He pretty extensively outlines every adjustment out of every formation and how he would use different plays in each series to attack the defense. It's pretty dense. This might sound intuitive to some people, this kind of play calling. Of course, you have a base play and then build counters off of it, but this isn't necessarily how other teams run their offenses. Air Raid tends to build these answers into every single play that they run. Other teams might want to run limited amounts of concepts out of tons of different formations to hunt for different matchups. But this play calling, it's a staple of the wing T. So now we've expanded our checklist of things that would make an offense resemble the wing T. They need some condensed formation, motion and misdirection, a gap scheme, run-heavy offense, and a series-based play calling method. The question is, how can that blueprint be translated to the modern game, and more specifically, the shotgun? Well, its most pure form would be to replace this fullback with a running quarterback, and either place him as a second back or move him out to receiver. You can still run a lot of the traditional wing T stuff out of this. If we look at Buck series, it could look something like this, where the quarterback is now the fullback trap guy, this back is still going for Buck sweep, and you could have jet motion working backside to represent what used to be the quarterback rollout. You're still stressing the same parts of the field, just with a slightly different starting setup. What's nice about being in the shotgun is you can turn these plays into reads. If this backside end crashes towards the sweep, then the quarterback can keep it. The problem with shotgun is that it messes up the timing of the traditional wing T plays, particularly the blocking. Take a play like trap out of the Buck series. This is supposed to hit fast at the middle, but because of the dynamics of the shotgun, it can't hit quite as fast. Another potential factor is that the wing T was designed to make the most out of undersized linemen who are more adept at pulling but couldn't hold up one-on-one all game in, say, a man or zone blocking scheme. Whatever the reason, Malzahn's offense didn't feature too much of the traditional run plays that you see in the wing T, pretty much ever. You could occasionally see him running some buck sweep, which he still runs a bit today, but other than that, there's little evidence to point to any of his blocking schemes being taken from the wing T directly. He's always based out of inside zone, at least since his early days at Auburn, which is not a gap play. He did heavily complement that inside zone with counter and power, which are gap plays, but not ones that are unique or even commonly featured in pure wing T Tubby Raband offenses. The key to making those run first offenses work was having the tight end in a sniffer role. He was block first and resembled a fullback more than a true tight end. This sniffer position allowed him good leverage to kick block the strong side end for power or wrap around for backside counter. So while the run schemes weren't specifically wing T, you could see why people made the connection. These Auburn teams check a lot off the list that we established earlier. They run these condensed sets with motion and misdirection, and while they were a zone-heavy team, they kept a healthy amount of gap scheme around in counter and power with this sniffer. Now, the one wing T thing that I believe Malzahn does stick to is having series-based offenses. This is nice for me as a YouTuber because throughout the offseason, I can break these plays down by their series to show you how they can be built off of one another. But a series-based offense does not a wing T offense make. A common complaint about Malzahn is that he, and by extension his offenses, have grown stagnant at the time. Yes, they were cutting edge and revolutionary, but the college football world has left him behind. So let's fast forward 10 years and evaluate that claim. Has he really stayed the same? Let's start with the formation. Look at the splits on these receivers. Often they're out past the numbers. So heavy use of these condensed sets that we saw at Auburn and in the wing T is off the table. They of course still use them, but don't base out of them like they used to. Motion is still in heavy use, which is a check. They're often towards the top of the country in motion usage. And now on to gap schemes. Since Malzahn met up with offensive line coach Herb Hand, who is now at FSU, he even further emphasized the inside zone run game. Last year, they ran inside zone 55% of their run plays, which is the 6th highest rate in the country. They ran the 2nd most inside zone snaps total last season across all of college football. That doesn't sound very gap heavy to me. One stat that I think illustrates how much Gus Malzahn's offense has changed throughout the years is his usage of the tight end in the run game. In those old Auburn offenses, they used the tight end to really open up their gap scheme plays. Now they're pass first players who can also contribute to the run game sometimes. Look at this graph mapping the total receptions of their tight ends and fullbacks over the years. You see a steady rise in receptions as Malzahn has adapted more spread principles to his game. Now that's neither good nor bad. I think both offenses could honestly still work in the modern game, but I think it's unfair and inaccurate to say Malzahn has remained stagnant. His offenses have consistently put up good numbers according to his opponent adjusted metrics. Now he's got a big uphill battle to fight this offseason. FSU's offense finished the season at 115 out of 132 in F+, and frankly, having a better schedule than Kent State is doing a lot of heavy lifting for that stat. But Malzahn has been one of the best offensive minds in our time, and I'm excited to see him try to turn this ship around. Thanks for watching. Like I said in the video, the plan is to break down some of his series as the offseason progresses. So if there's anything you see that you want to know how it works, let me know. My next video is probably going to be on Tony White and some blitz schemes, so please like and subscribe to the channel and Knowles247 so you don't miss a thing. Thanks.